Today's seminar about good practices for online experiments and online research and web-based research in general. So I will first introduce web-based research and kind of a general methodology you may follow in your research. Then I will present Frisson Dataset, an initiative we have in the music technology group here for creating open and large audio datasets. Then Maria Rosenberg will draw your attention on some lessons she learned when conducting a web game experiment for detecting dyslexia at early age. And then Davinia Hernandez-Leo will present the Integrated Learning Design Environment 2 community platform for learning design. We need users in our research for many things, in information technologies and machine learning. We can, for example, validate hypotheses or models. We can draw some perceptual regression models. We can evaluate the models itself. A/B testing is one of the famous methods and quite easy to use. You can evaluate interfaces or generate data, as I will present in Frisson datasets. And you can do all kind of behavioral studies and link maybe more to psychology and all fields that I don't know much actually. But well, so traditionally we kind of do this kind of user experiment in lab. So you gather people, you bring them somewhere and you make them pass a task or an experiment. So the internet and the web holds many benefits, no? And it allows us to access more population, sometimes unique population, to get more diverse samples, to get larger of data. It also reduces the data collection time. It's also save you money and so on. However, performing these experiments online brings some challenges, no? The equivalence to lab-based experiments is not always assured. On the web, you have a lot of participants that just drop the task, and you don't want that. You want they finish the task to observe what you want to observe. You have a lack of control over the overall environment. The instruction often given, the static instruction given by text or video don't allow interaction, no, between the participants and yourself. And they cannot ask questions, so they maybe not will be able to perform the task as you think they should be, no? So, well, here I will give a kind of methodology for getting into designing this kind of experiment. So, of course, first you should have clear what is the goal of your study, what is your research question, and why do you need this user experiment? And mostly, why do you need it in the web? Maybe you need to get a lot of participants quickly. Maybe you need to reach a particular kind of community that you can achieve only there. Well, many reasons. And once this is clear, well, you can say, okay, let's make efforts to make this experiment online and gather more results. So all the advice I could make are, well, not all, but a lot of advice would be very specific to your task, no? So of course, I advise you to look at other studies, follow other methodologies, or propose maybe a new one, but be really clear what you want to show and how you want to show it. Then you can start to design the experiment. Think about all the variables. They can be just population or cultural, based on the participant, or more related to your experiment. Make sure you add randomness everywhere. I'm quite sure you know about all these things, but yeah. Make sure what you want to prove, which are the variables, and think about what are the questions you will ask to participants, either the instructions or the question at the end. Again, linked to your goal, to your hypothesis, think about what data you want to collect. On the web, you have many options. You can use logs, so think about why do you want to use the logs. Now, it's good to put some logs, but then analyzing all the logs, maybe not easy. Of course, survey forms are a nice way to gather feedback from the participants, and do a lot of pilot tests. So maybe first just design it on a paper and do it yourself, try to pass the test and figure out if it's going the way you want. And iterate and maybe grab one of your mates from your lab and make him pass the test and improve it. I think no one gets it right the first time, and many people here, I guess, had experiences on redoing an experiment that they did, and in the end you lose time and money, so make sure you do a lot of this pilot testing. So of course these advices were kind of general for user studies, and in the web I think you should take care of the instructions. So first you should introduce the study and then explain the task, no? And make them maybe short, because people on the web don't listen, don't read everything, and they tend to just skip the important aspects. So just focus on the important thing. It will be better for having more participants and making it easier for them. Favor also maybe short tasks, so you want that all the participants complete all the tasks, no? And if you do it too long, not a lot of people will do it or will finish. And, well, you should inform them about the amount of effort they have to provide to perform the task, maybe the environment where they should be. In audio, we ask them to wear headphones and these things, and we also tell them this experiment will take half an hour or more or less, no? Well, that's it a bit for the general advice. You can find a lot of links here. I just gave a few links, but you can find a lot of advice from people who did experiments on the web with users. So do your own research, of course, and go on. So now I will present a Frisson dataset. So it's a platform we created here for the collaborative creation of open audio collections. So we are 3 PhD students, and with the support of many others from the music technology group. So basically in machine learning, the advances needs a data set. No? You need data set, collections of data to train your models or evaluate your models. And in audio, there are some problems that most of the data sets available there are not large enough, and they are not open sometimes, and this brings us to our kind of vision where we want to create a large open data set, and that also evolves with time. There are mistakes in data set, and we want to make it that it will improve with time if people put effort on it, of course. So the first thing we need for that is a source of content, audio content. So you might know Frisson. Frisson was created 10 years ago here, and it's a website that hosts collaborative collections of audio samples. So it's started to be quite large, and it's quite dynamic, and it's also open. All the sounds are released under Creative Commons licenses. Another requirement for building our first dataset is a set of concepts, a set of labels. No? So we decided to choose the audio set ontology that was released last year. So it contains a lot of classes that are organized in a hierarchy. Here you can just see the first 2 layers. It already gives an idea that it's quite wide in the kind of categories there are. So we just applied this, and we got the audio content with Frisson, we got the set of concepts, we got the platform, and we need also a community of people, and all these things will help us to build our first large-scale and open audio dataset that we call FSD. So we're on the process of creating it, and now I will show you a bit how did we do it and try to outline some advices or mistakes or stuff we improve. So we created what we call a validation task. So maybe in images, it's also common practice. So basically, people listen to sound and validate the presence of category. Here in the example is accordion, an instrument, present. So you listen and you answer, yes, it is, or no, I'm not sure, this kind of thing. So this is a simple task that allows us already to test it. So we grabbed a few experts from our lab, and we did our first pilot study. So this helped us to evaluate the candidates. So we are validating some candidates' annotations that were generated automatically and see their quality and maybe improve it. So we had some incomes, of course, improving this mapping. We also saw that the task was not so easy, even for experts. Some categories were hard to understand, maybe hard to perceive in the sounds, And also sometimes it was quite subjective. We also already improved some stuff. We adapted the response type and give more freedom in what people could answer there. So after doing all these changes, we again tested it, the thing here. So we organized a kind of event where we gather like 20 people, and it allowed us to test a bit more the scalability of the platform, having a lot of concurrent participants using. So we gathered a lot of annotations, and we tested our interface and our task. No? And from that, we gathered also a lot of feedback from these people, mostly researchers here or master students. So from this, we saw many problems in what we did. And first, we gave guidelines that were looking like that. So you cannot see, but it's just kind of text, and it doesn't even fit here. I mean, it was long and kind of boring, and people were not reading everything. They were skipping, and in the end, we realized that they were not following the guidelines. So we kind of end up with now something like that is really simpler, and it just includes what you need to know. So it seems that it's better, and we did other stuff. But also, and mostly, we are using crowdsourcing. We want that people from the web just annotate for us. So these people come from different cultural, educational background, or have different expertise. So we want to train them. We want to give consistency in their work. So we worked on an interface that allows you to visualize a category, here mallet percussion, see its description, see his place on the hierarchy, so comes from different parents, and see his siblings and direct children. So, and being able to concurrently, simultaneously check these different categories. We also selected some examples that are representative of all the categories. So this is a lot of manual work, but it's really needed. So, and we realized that people, they don't read the description, they just listen to the examples and go on to the task. So these examples need to be really, really representative of the categories. So again, we worked on guidances, and from the feedback we gathered, so there was a simple form there when we performed the first test, and people were saying, what do I do with synthesized voice? Here it was human voice. So what do I do with synthesized sounds? In general, what do I do with heavily processed sounds? So from all this feedback, we kind of created some frequently asked questions specific to the different categories that help people just to follow the same rule. No? We just want to bring homogeneity in their way to annotate. Of course, in crowdsourcing, there are a lot of quality control mechanisms. Well, we kind of mimic what is done there in Crowdflower and this kind of platform. So we want to use redundancy of crowd worker answers. So when two or more people agreed on the presence of something, we could accept that. So here I present, well, you won't understand very the column, but just think it as different answers, response type. And you see that people just disagree sometimes. And in this case, we could maybe look at this category, accordion. Maybe there is something wrong there. There is something wrong in the question we ask or in the guidance. Because it seems that it's not easy for people to agree. Then we used, of course, verification examples, so sounds that are from these categories or are not, and we spot that people can perform the task, or we just remove spam if someone is randomly answering, and we can add things like minimum expected time to perform the task, and so on. So it's important to disseminate your work, so you have spent here you should have spent a lot of work implementing your thing, testing it, and getting results. So you should inform the communities around you. So of course, we inform the Freesound community and try to show them how this work is important for them and how it could improve their life in browsing sound collections. We use our typical research communities, so through mailing lists or conferences. And we also recently made our first use of the data we collected by creating some challenges, some competition of general purpose audio tagging competition that you can find in Kaggle, so famous machine learning data science platform, and DK is more research oriented. And we are now in how we can motivate the people. So in Freesum, we have a lot of content. There is a lot of work to produce to get really a big data set. And we are just based on goodwill. We just want people that have fun doing it. So Freesum community for now seems responsive. We have every day a few annotators. And we organize these kind of competition events where we gather people here. We give them some pizza or beers, and we annotate and we exchange some feedback. It's really useful to do these things for us. Well, here is a graph, a bit of the history of our platform. So this is 1 year ago, more or less, and this is now. And these are the number of votes, the number of contributions you do, validation, no? So here you can see this was the internal, like the first pilot test. Here was when we wanted to try more and test the scalability. Here was another one, and here you see like nothing happened for almost a year. And because we realized a lot of kind of mistakes and things we had to improve before opening it to the crowd, no? Here was controlled environment, and here is starting to be the crowd, and we don't know what they are doing. So we wanted to make sure everything was okay. Here we did some other testing. Here was a tagathon like a month ago. We organized an event, and now we are constantly growing. So here we will get almost at 100,000 contribution, and well, let's see how it grows. So that's all for my part. I hope you find some interesting problems or ideas we got, and of course, if you have some question, don't hesitate.
I think we can have the questions at the end. So
or after, yeah, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what you've seen so far, thank you. Hope it works. What you've seen so far, I'm Maria, by the way. Some of you know me. What you've seen so far is when you have the luck of having somebody already having collected some data sets, right? And then you do the annotation. What I will present is mostly when you have nothing and you have to start from scratch, right? Because this is much more difficult to gain the trust of people. I also had some, exactly, is anybody doing user studies, like in the lab here? No? User studies? Anybody? Are you doing user studies online? Yeah? Okay. Or are you planning to do user studies? Nobody, okay. So that's good, actually, because this will help you much more. If you ever plan to do it, this will be something. So I will talk mostly about lessons learned from conducting an online experiment, which is correlated to my PhD. I've done several other user studies in lab or outside in different setups, but I will mostly try to get the examples from my PhD, so it might be more useful for you. This work has mostly been done with Ruth Rayleigh and Ricardo Baez-Yates, which are my supervisors, and with Jeff Bickham, who's at CMU. I've been there for a while, and we did a large-scale, or medium-large-scale, let's say, experiment in America. But mostly I will focus on the European way, because there are different ways of it. Okay, let's start. So at the beginning is the topic you have, and I said, okay, I want to detect if a person has dyslexia while or after they played my web game. Very easy, right? I mean, everybody will love to participate. Everybody has a computer, a mobile phone, or a tablet, so anybody can participate at any time in the whole world. It's thousands of participants. This is amazing. Sadly, it's not the case, but let me show you what I plan. My plan is still, it's still how I do stuff. So you have at the beginning the concept. It's partly what Xavier already showed you, actually, the experimental design. When you kind of say, is it the within subject design study? Do you do A/B testing? What are my measurements? How do I want to do the whole task? Is it a task or is it something else? So all this part which you do call experiment design, you talk to your supervisors, this is what you define. Then you implement it probably. You do early GUI testing, hopefully. I'm a user-centered design person, so I'm definitely going to do that. But I hope you will in the future as well, so remember that keyword. And then you do the online participation. I mean, easy, right? As I said, thousands of people. And then you do the analysis, statistical analysis, machine learning, whatsoever. Nobody cares in the end, because I will be focusing today. I hope I'm not too fast. I can talk slower. But I really like this topic, so I will focus mostly on the concept and the conduct. So how to engage people, what it could possibly go wrong or not, what you should take care of when doing so. So what you should think about, and these are just at the top of my head. This is not the complete list. This is just to give you kind of an idea what you should think about. If you do the study in different languages, which language are you going to start with? Cultural differences between Spanish and German. I can tell you, since I'm German and I live in Barcelona since a while, there is a difference, specifically when you conduct a study. We are all very similar at the same time, but how you conduct a study and how you bring people to participate is very different. Influencer, teachers, schools, who are you talking to? Who is actually the participant? Is it the child? But what about the parents, which is the legal guardian? So you have to take that into consideration as well. Trust, very big thing, and time for the communication. And I think actually Xavier showed a very good example of how to make sure that this person is really that person that they say, and if they do a good job, so that you have to overlook the quality of what you get back. I mean, I don't know, I had to take out of my data set a lot of people because they haven't finished, or the answers were not correct, or this is a test or something. You have to make sure that testing is not included in your data set in the end. So you have to think about this before. And also how to make sure that the approach, how to engage people is appropriate, let's say. This depends on the profession and stuff. So this is just an overview, and not completed, as I say. It's just to give you a heads up what's coming. So I will really go into details, and these are very unique things in itself, but I hope it will help you launch a user study if you do one. So gaining the trust of participants. If I talk, since I talk about children, and since I talk about dyslexia, it's very important that you gain the trust of the participants. Specifically because if you target health problems or health topics, because they might be ashamed to talk about it, maybe they don't want to even let the teachers know that their child has dyslexia, or they're ashamed of something. And you can relate this to any kind of topic somebody don't want to talk about. I mean, if we talk about annotation of music, that's different. Health issues are super different, and if we talk maybe even about diseases, it's something else as well, right? So you have to gain the trust. And how do you do that? This is like impossible, kind of. If you think about Cambridge Analytics, which is kind of very actual problem at this point, everybody thinks you're a scam on the internet. If you do this in Germany, I mean, they love privacy. I wouldn't call it love, but they're very concerned about their data and about online things in general. So if you just say, oh, I'm a researcher from the world, and I want you to participate with your child, which has dyslexia, in my study, you have to make them trust you. And how do you do that, right? So if you target anything like this, you should be very concerned. You can help, or it could help that you put your personal story out there, or that you win awards, which are trustworthy, anything. Public relations, so you have maybe a contact already to a teacher, to a school, and go from there. And also regularly give the information to people. So when you have 5 people who participated, then give them a heads up 1 month later, or maybe even longer, that something happened on your study, and that they get a reminder, oh, and they get a reward for participating. Don't give up. I mean, if you start from scratch, you probably don't know the area, you don't know the people, you don't know anybody, so you have to really engage and try your best. It takes very much time. And the benefits would be if you, because you said, Xavier, less time in an online study. I would partly disagree, actually. Because the amount of time you have to put in to engage people, especially at the beginning, can be very large. It depends, right? It depends on the topic, on the people. But it doesn't always have to be that you have less time. But you can have different kind of people from different spots. And also, if your population is very specific, which you want to engage, then of course, this is the way to go, right? Okay, when you go for different languages or cultures, as I said, on one hand, we're all very similar. On the other hand, there are differences to the cultures itself. As I said, when I do the translation, for example, let's start with the implementation part, right, with the consistency. So first you have to make a consistent translation to all the application, the same functions. On the web, it's very easy because you can kind of get the functions and just have a JSON or a PHP file with the different languages and you're fine, right? From the technical perspective, that's super easy. From the study perspective and the study design, it's different, since at the beginning you probably don't know for certain how everything looks. You have a plan, you have it discussed with your supervisors, and on the way while you're programming, you feel like, I should add that question, or I should do this the other way around. Because you do this for the first time, you have no lessons learned. So that's super normal, right? Don't get frustrated. But you have to make sure that all the applications is ready and consistent throughout, because otherwise you cannot compare it between the languages. Makes sense, right? I mean, if they have a different study design, then you cannot compare it. And since they do this mostly at home or at school or wherever, they will have... somebody's coming? Yeah. Since then you will already have external factors. Voila. Then you already have external factors already, which you want, right? That's why you do a field study instead of a lab study. But you don't want any external factors which you created, which you're not aware of. So finish all the implementation on maybe English so that you can show it to supervisors and test participants, and then just translate the file into any language you want. Make sure they have the translator if it's not your native language. For Spanish, for example, it's not my native language, and I even have difficulties to communicate. But I know people who know Spanish very well, so I ask them and they do it. So that's normal, right? So don't start with translating everything and then redo it, because if you have to change anything afterwards, finding it, even if you have a separate file with the translation of it, it's a pain in the ass, let's say. Okay. I'm not going into that so much, but since it's very important since the European law just came out about the DSGG, I don't know the abbreviation of it, but you have to take care of data, like data protection. Here at UPF we have an IRB. We have also an IRB seminar. I think it has been 2 actually already, so attend that if you want to do it, which I've learned. When you do this from America, for example, you need an institution there which is doing, or is kind of doing the IRB for you, otherwise it doesn't count. If you go for Germany and schools, I can tell you the whole story about it. I just keep it short for now, which means that for every region you have to get an approval of the constitution which is in charge, and every time it's a different constitution. So for Schleswig-Holstein, for example, it's the Ministry of Education. But for Niedersachsen, if you want to target or talk to schools, you have to go for an association from the school. So you have to investigate who is doing what and why, and can I do this or not. And IRB is not enough for them, right? And you go against the law, you don't want that. Nobody wants to end up in jail, right? I mean, at least I don't want to. So be careful when you do this kind of stuff. It's a bit more work, but then you will be sure that you have everything set. They mostly look into if the servers are in Europe, if the data is secure, if what you do with the data after a while, and so on. So it's not magic or anything very difficult. It's like the usual stuff. But you have to do it. And I put teachers, parents, or different professions here because it depends on how you communicate to them and what they want from you. So this makes a huge difference. In my case, it's teachers, parents, and maybe therapists or medical doctors, depending. But these are my stakeholders I have to take care of. As in a project, you also have to do that. So now we come to the interesting part. Study announcement, right? I put it on my website. Maybe I asked UPF, please, can you put it on your website? I'm searching for participants. And then next day, I have lots of them. Yeah. These are dreams. They might come true in one day, but the reality is different. So you have to talk, or you have to see maybe if there are online Facebook group colleagues, influencers existing in cooperation with schools, associations. Maybe your group already has some. I know some researchers do here, some researchers with school. Printed flyer, blogs, newsletter, awards, short articles, newspaper, so like anything, right? Anything you can think of where you can reach people which are related to your topic. Don't just randomly talk to anybody, just think about where's the correlation, what do they have, or what do they want? And this is a bit more what I did. It's not the best approach ever, but it works pretty well for this case. So for asking parents of children between 7 till 12 if they want to participate in our online study for children with dyslexia and for children without dyslexia. Maybe I should mention here that when you announce this, a lot of times people call you which suspect their child to have dyslexia, and they are in urgent need of help. And at this point, you have to say that you cannot give them any help yet. This is very sad, and we want to help them in the future, but you cannot help them because they're in urgent need of a diagnosis to proceed in school and to get the help. What you can do is associate or collaborate with associations from Germany or Spain. They can help, so that you refer the details and the contacts and everything, and maybe be the first aid and say, it's not that bad, dyslexia is, your child is very intelligent still, and it has lots of strengths. It has nothing to do with how intelligent your person or your child is. It's just some things they're not good in writing and reading, that's all. So don't worry too much. Here are the details from the association, they will help you. That's very important, because the expectations they have on your research is very high. And if you cannot fulfill them, this kind of gets you a shitstorm, let's say, in the end, right? So be careful there, specifically when you go on Facebook or any social media platform, Reddit, whatever you think of, be careful. Also, so I have created like a web page in different languages. I have like a group where people can come together, parents, they talk to each other. So mostly there's somebody coming, oh, my child has dyslexia, can you help? I don't know what to do. And then others are kind of jumping in, not just me, and helping them and figure it out, what is the next step. And also I have one where we kind of just distribute what is happening in the research as well as on other sites. Then we do, I did a study announcement with Luz Relio, which is my supervisor, and she has a non-profit organization. She has a very solid ground, engaged crowd from Spain, but kind of all over the world, anybody who speaks Spanish. And still, I mean, they're very engaging and they're very supportive, and even there you have to empathize on the post itself a lot to get people to participate. It's not just posted and it's done. You have to really take care of the people. They have lots of questions, even though you do a very nice introduction, so be prepared for that. Teachers, libraries, printed flyers. Apparently in Germany it works very well to have printed flyers anytime with you, so just hand them out. If you're on the train, if you're on the bus, wherever you are, if you go to a class meeting, it doesn't matter, just hand them out. Or if you're in a library and you can ask, oh, can I put them here? If you're there in person, it works perfectly fine. If you call them, no chance. Even though you might be born there, it doesn't work. This maybe brings me also to a point, this is something you kind of have also in your presentation, but I really want to point it out. Even though we do online studies, somehow everything is correlated to the local base. So I have more, the probability of people participating in my research is higher if I have been there, if I lived there, if I was born there, or if any other kind of relation I can make to this area regionally, right? So, or if they had a contact with me or anything. Otherwise, people don't care, or it's just that they don't have time to care. Maybe they do, but they don't have time. So this is a very important point, that we have online studies, but still we have the regional or the local, like the non-digital world out there, which we have to engage with. Okay, so after a while, that was not enough. I mean, I tried a lot, right? I went also, wait, I forgot. I went to existing Facebook groups, actually. There are a lot of them out there, which are support for teachers, for parents, for anybody. You can target them and ask them if they would post something that's very nice. And make it personal, as I say. Make it a personal story. If you just say, I'm a researcher from UPF, I'm searching for participants, nearly nobody will call probably, or like say something. But if you make it a story about, we can help doing this while doing that, or you know somebody, or you have a participant already who's confident enough to do that, then you can do it and engage. So that was not enough. I mean, you start from scratch, right? So you need a broader audience. So I explored all my context already, people from earlier, from anywhere. So now I was like limited, okay, I need to know more people. It's not enough. Aurelio actually was very good help. We had some very nice chats. And I applied for some awards, or I applied actually for one award, which was the German Reading Award, and I got it. And it's quite huge in Germany, and that was pretty good. This gave me a huge push on the perspective of telling people about this research and that they should pay attention. And from there, before I already contacted newspapers or said, okay, we do this research in the school, don't you want to report about it? And they did. But no big newspapers or anybody was very interested since we don't have any results yet, right? I mean, we gather this data to later do an analysis, and we don't have anything yet besides maybe the evaluation of the game itself, which is published, but nobody cares about that. Everybody wants to know, can you predict or not? And so after this award, there were reasons to talk about the research we do, or I do, we do, never mind. And there were even the bigger TV stations coming on and saying like, oh, Sat.1, this is like a German TV show, like a big provider for TV, which is quite huge, and a lot of people saw that. And the good part is also that you already have a base with some schools, and they trust you, and you trust them, and you talk to the parent, and you've been there, right? You have to go there locally. You have to go there. After a while, you can do the communication on, like via email, but you have to go there at some point. And then you have the build of trust already, and what happens is fantastic, actually, because you have these children which are having dyslexia, and they go like on TV, and they're very self-confident, and they go like, yeah, you know, I cannot write so well. I practice that, but I have lots of good strengths. You want to see? I'm very good in math, or they theater or singing or something, and this builds up their strengths and their confidence, and it's also a good model for other children which have dyslexia, because everybody is otherwise very like, oh yeah, my child has dyslexia, I don't want to tell. And it should be the other way around to give people more help. So actually this is a good thing. And from there, a lot of more things happen, and it goes on and goes on and on. So this was quite successful, but it took a lot of time, right? This is not easily done in like 2 months or so. You have to work along. When you have, so assuming you've done all of these things, you wrote emails, you wrote communication parts in any way, like articles, whatever, you talk to people, and then finally people respond. We had like one case where we had lots of influencers, and then there was like in 2 hours I had 400 people writing me, and it was like, okay, now I have to hurry. We were prepared for that, but still it took me nearly the whole weekend to respond to everyone, and they had questions again, and there was, right? I had like email templates, I had like the invitation part, but every different, so it depends on if it's a teacher, how you reply, or if it's a person who has dyslexia, or a person who has a child maybe with dyslexia or has dyslexia. So you have to have different templates for all these different stakeholders. I used the lab function from Gmail. Back then, Inbox didn't have this function. Now it's there as well, so you can use it as well to make the templates, so you don't have to copy it from your Word file or anything, because then the URLs change, and this will be recognized as spam. You don't want that. Also, when you write to them, try to make it very short. Like you showed the example as well, Xabi, with the guidelines when they're very long or very a lot, because you want them to know everything. That's very nice, but maybe try to stick to the main part and then give them additional information if needed. But stick to the main things and then go from there. People normally don't have time. They want to have it as easy as possible and try to do that. Later on, when I started really conducting studies in different language, I had different email accounts, which was very useful. I can recommend that very much. Otherwise, your UPF mail will be full and you cannot do anything else. Also, if you have support later on from others, so I'm already supported by other people for certain things, then they can access this email accounts as well, and it's not your private one. So it makes it much easier to collaborate. Google Form Autoresponder. I kind of tried it, but it's since you don't know who will reply and you give them an instant email, then you might fall into scams or into so bots or anybody you don't want to have your application or anything. So be careful with autoresponders. Sometimes it's, I mean, you're really certain, okay, this next 2 hours, these people are coming from this source and I know they will be fine. Then you can use the autoresponder to instantly send an email. But otherwise, I would strongly say don't do it because you don't know who you send it to, and later on they kind of get your email, like your study account, your study down. I'm not talking about Freesound, which is a stable thing online, but if you have like your own programmed website, which is maybe not so secure, of course it is, but they might find something to enter and do like a brute force attack or something, right? Yeah, I created Facebook groups, pages, web newsletter, and support from others. This is like the next part. So, most importantly, I think this is quite obvious, but still, sometimes you forget about it. You need time to respond to all these messages. I regularly still get pulled into Facebook conversations, and then they're already kind of gone when I kind of enter, which is like, that's bad. If I would have got the message before or had time to answer, I could have prevented all this discussion, which was kind of then controversial. And you need to have time to reply to emails, to messengers, specifically for health topics or people where they are very emotional about. They need support. They need they need feedback from you, let's say. If it's just something random and they don't care, never mind. But if you have like emotion involved from parents which are scared for their children or teachers which think the other way, you have to be present to avoid a huge discussion which might not lead anywhere. So be prepared for that. And implementing at the same time something else, like another study, might be difficult. Also, if you run another study at the same time, might be difficult. If you do this at the same email account, so that you don't switch the invitation part, right? That might be difficult. Maybe do the sequentially or different email accounts, as well as do teaching. I mean, at UPF we teach, so be careful if it takes too much time and you don't have time to respond. So this is kind of the states. So like the 2 years were completely the concept, the implementation, the testing, the first contacts until kind of now. And we have around 360 participants just for that online application, right? Not for anything else or the new ones or anything, just for that one. And you can see from 2 years that's quite a lot. And these are just 360. We're not talking about like millions or thousands or something. I looked up the emails accounts I have created specifically for that. They were around 1,700, but I know I wrote a lot before, so you can imagine that a lot of things happened before that. 150 newsletter, blog posts, newsletter articles, whatever, anything was kind of published. 100 schools I contacted. I think there are more. These are the ones which have kind of replied to me, or we had like some communication. And 10 took part and more spreaded the flyers. So not every school has, for example, computers or iPads or anything. It's, at least in Germany they don't. And so they were rather spreading the flyers and say to parents, oh, you want to participate? This is a great study, do that, and so on. Now I have in my newsletter around 345 stakeholders, or like people who follow my research. So anytime now I relaunch a study, I have quite a good, when they participate, that's much better. And also the Facebook group is quite active. Depends on the day, right? I'm not telling you anything about when to send out your newsletter or so. This always depends. So like not always on Thursday, not always on Saturday. It always depends. So this was quite successful in the end, but it takes a lot of time. And the good part is, I have a new study. As I said, when you implement the study and you finished. Before you enroll, as Xavi as well said, when you finish, you're finished. You cannot change the variables or anything anymore, because then you change the user setup and you cannot compare the participants anymore. So what I did is I was writing down what I've kind of saw or wanted to change or so. And everything went into the D-game study from the analysis as well. The call is out there already. I showed you now the English version, so that's fine. So if anybody wants to collaborate, anybody wants to participate in my study, I'm searching for people at the age from 7 till 12. So if you want to participate in maybe you have nieces, nephews, friends who have already children, or you meet somebody on the street and you say, oh, you know, I know this great study somebody presented to me, and that's the point where you kind of jump in. Yeah, so I'm still looking, or I'm again looking for people to participate. And that's nearly it. The takeaway, think ahead. Do pilot studies, it's very important. I know sometimes it's a long way, but it's very important to find the flaws before you do the big enrollment, because if you already have 100 participants, then you don't want to miss them, right? You don't want to take them out. So do this before. Gain the trust. It's very difficult, but over time it's possible. And if you give them something back which they reward, or if they what they want, or what they kind of appreciate, then it's a much healthier relationship with the participants. And do good work. Do it step by step. I know sometimes it's a lot, but do it step by step. And at the beginning, as I said, it takes quite a lot of time. So don't worry. Don't give up. And I put this graph. I love this one. I just love it. It's about how many times should you try. And I've always hear this from other people, from other PhDs, that they say, oh, I tried so often. But how often did you try to succeed? So this is like a picture about how, that Thomas Edison repeatedly, like 10,000 times repeatedly failed before he invented the light, for example. And this is quite a lot. So I think we're allowed to fail a few times before we succeed. Don't worry too much. I think that's it. If you have any questions, let me know. And now Davinia is presenting her part. Okay.
Okay, hello, also from my side. My special thanks to Xavi and Maria for preparing very nicely this seminar. They have gone through many important issues. I just have a third case study that is very briefly presented with some additional aspects that you may consider or you may apply in a similar way in your own projects. I lead a group that is on learning technologies, and there in this group we have a platform that we call the Integrated Learning Design Environment. In this environment we have the strategy of integrating the new technologies that we develop in different projects. And the idea is that in this environment that integrates many different features that we develop in our group, we can have like more impact when it comes to the actual use of the different features by the final users. And this environment is a social platform for educators, when educators can create, they can design learning activities, okay, using authoring tools of different kinds, and they can also use these learning activities that they create with this platform and apply them with their students. So in this platform, in this community platform, we have many different authoring tools for teachers to use of different kind. This platform, we use it as an open platform for many teachers to use, but we also have different installations for different educational communities like schools, transversal innovation projects across the schools, training programs as well, so that we have this main installation of the platform, but also different instantiations that are being used by different communities. So this platform has been used in different universities, other schools, different kinds of organizations, also adaptations by companies, okay? The platform is being now currently extended with different data features. So we are collecting data coming from the users. This is what we call community data, so that we do community analytics of this data. We have a nice dashboard that is being one of the main research aspects of a PhD thesis within our group. But we also collect, or we also analyze what the teachers, what the educators are designing with the platform. So we also can have an idea of the different activities that they create and their characteristics. And if the teachers use these activities with their students, then we also collect the data of the students. This is what we call the learning data, and therefore the learning analytics. We have different installations in different schools that we collaborate with. Schools and educational centers, and also installations that we use in the context of training programs, for example, MOOCs. MOOCs that we create for the particular purposes of also having some social impact to the society, because we train the society around our tools, the results of our research, but also as a strategy to do research, to collect data. So this is one of our main strategies so far, to collect data from the crowd, let's say. This is the different layers of data that we collect. As I mentioned, data from the community of educators, community data, the designs themselves, what the teachers create in the platform. This is the data of the designs that they create, and we also analyze the designs and the data of the participants. Okay. But for the topic of that we are discussing now, specific things about how we do experimentation. Online or hybrid approaches to experimentation, because as Maria said, it's also very important to go physically to the places so that people also know better what we do. So we not only do online experimentation when it comes to the use of our platform and the different features and trying to answer research questions of the things that the solutions that we provide in the platform, but we also do hybrid experimentation, where part of the experimentation is in the educational centers, for example, in the schools, and part of the experimentation is online, because they are using our platform to design activities that they later implement with their students. So, of course, the pilot schools are somehow, it's a nice way to collect also quality data, because we frame these pilots with the schools as partners of our research in particular projects. But then we also design MOOCs where we offer training to the society in general about our solutions. And part of the MOOC, we say very clearly that is also part of our research. And we try to do it, of course, ethically, etc. And during this part of the MOOC, then we invite the participants to help us with the research in the same way that we provide a training to them, let's say, for free. It's true that not always this works so nicely. This is why we do iterations of the MOOCs, because we also look for quality data. We really have to provide good training to the participants, or a reward in a way of, for example, trying to offer credit to the educators that are taking this MOOC so that they can use it for their promotion, for example. So we try to look for opportunities for quality experimentation. It's not easy, as Maria said, and we also have to do a lot of dissemination. But at least it's working for some of our research questions, this strategy of offering training and then collecting data for our research. We have started now a competition, a context, and that's an international competition for educators in the world, that we are asking them to design the best possible learning activity for using a hybrid teaching and learning methodology that includes the use of our tools. And this competition, we try to organize a award, and we are in the process of doing dissemination. And in this dissemination, we are trying also to give, to offer small short videos where we very easily explain how is the competition working, and also the key aspects of the tool they have to use. It's been, for the moment that we have started the process of the dissemination, It has been working. It's been working very nicely, especially with our current collaborators. We've seen that they are eager to participate in the competition, and they are pushing the design of nice learning activities. We collect data from different sources, as presented by Xavi and Maria before. So we, of course, take into account the logs from the system, but we also use questionnaires. Of course, with the schools, we integrate also observations in real places and interviews. Legal and ethical aspects. We've been working on the terms and conditions for the platform itself from the legal perspective. But of course, from the ethical perspective, it's also, for us, it's very important that the users, the educators, understand the implications and also the positive aspect that that combines participating in our activities and our research. So just to close, because I know that we are running out of time, I will play the video that we use, in this case with our partners in schools, to explain the ethical aspects. Probably this complements also in a different way. We have in the 3 languages. Of course, with the schools, we especially use Catalan or Spanish, but then we have the translation into English.
Okay. Sorry, I think I did a circuit thing. My computer restarted after I kind of plugged it in the wrong spot, and now Windows is starting.
Okay.
We can do it from Windows, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah. If not, we can start with the questions in case you have questions for any of the 3 of us, and then if we manage, we can play the video. It is of your interest, eh? I don't know.
For the questions, please use the microphone, okay? If you are recording the students.
There's 2 questions. I will start with Ubuntu.
Sorry.
There's 2 questions because
No worries. I'm sorry that I went too fast, but I was also late. But anyway. Do you have any questions? Where's the microphone?
The microphone should be
There is a microphone over there. Anybody has any questions? Don't be shy.
Any questions?
I have one.
Oh, you have one.
When you said you do these Facebook groups and stuff.
Yeah.
So when you use your Facebook groups and the page, so do you use it as something to show to people and send it, or did you use advertisement? You paid for it on Facebook, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I tried to reach some community on Facebook, but for us, since it's not really a game, it's not so fun. We want to find some freaky guy that maybe will spend time annotating, but not everyone will like to just annotate sounds just for us. So I tried to reach some communities there, but.
So for reaching out for communities, it's a bit difficult. First of all, because our research is very innovative, and people from neuroscience or linguists or pedagogues, they don't like it. I mean, we are trying to detect dyslexia with a game. First of all, it's a game. It's not a test. Okay. Second of all, there's no neuroscience in there, or no MIT, so like no head scan or anything, no relation to error words, which is usually the case. So we're quite new in this field, and they just feel that this is wrong. So when you enter a Facebook group or any group where somebody, and there probably is somebody in charge of it, they might say, okay, your stuff doesn't work. And since you don't have any results, you cannot even prove them wrong, right? So you have to somehow get an award, get somebody behind you which is well known to say, okay, this is good, you should do it. Or try to make it first with a personal contact, gain some results, and then say, okay, here, I have some results, please, would you announce it? It would be very nice. For the personal groups, I would avoid the payment part, but of course sometimes, specifically at the beginning, it's an opportunity, but you need money for it. And you need to choose your target group on Facebook very wisely, otherwise it doesn't work. You don't even get a like for anything. And better, I think, works when you asked parents who were very satisfied, when you gave them more information about dyslexia, since I have a very good overview now of the different detection processes and what might help or not, or if I know this method or not, and I give them, for example, the guidelines from the association, then they're very grateful. And if they are like saying, okay, this is very cool, please do this further, then I ask them, okay, since you like it so much, would you mind writing it in your forum or stuff? Or like tell others about it? And so it spreads the word, but it's very slow. It's not that thousands of people will call you next day. It's more slowly coming over. And now people are signing up for the newsletter or for Facebook without me saying anything. It's just took on. But it's still very slow. Let's say 2 people a week or something. It's still very slow. Yeah. And you have to take care of it. I mean, I'm just one person, right? I don't have a project behind it or anybody. It's just me. So it takes a lot of time. Yeah. Any questions? You should do user studies, you know? Don't just go on Twitter or just a social network. Don't just get the data from there. Do some user studies with real people. It's very rewarding, I can tell you.
It's okay. If you're interested in the video, just send me an email and I will send the link to you. I think I have my microphone. Okay. Because
otherwise, I think...
Okay, I'm Nicolas. I work for David's group, so I work with learning technologies. I have a question. I guess it's more for Xavier, but maybe it applies also for you, Maria. How you manage? I mean, you're looking for participants in the studies, but in the case of free sound, you need the people to stay in the platform. I mean, you don't need just a participant to participate once, but still participate in the platform for a long time. So how are you managing that?
So that's a good question, actually. I mean, there are different options. No, you can kind of do gamification and try to, I don't know, motivate him with some of, I don't know, show him his contribution and, or maybe do some competition, give awards, or, I mean, there are these kind of gamification things, no? Then we also try to, the people from FreeSound, to make them understand that it will be beneficial for them in the future. So if they contribute, they could gain something in their use of FreeSound, no? In searching, in browsing these large collaborative collections. Then, I mean, more ideas, specific ideas we have. I don't know, we have stupid ideas of a little badge that maybe they could get on FreeSound if they reach a certain amount of votes, no, of contribution. So, of course, if they reach it, then they go again away. I don't know, for now, in FreeSound, they are like, so, I mean, maybe there is 500,000 of users in a year that goes there, unique users. So if we gather 500,000 users that just go once, and only 10 that stay a long time, I would say it's okay. But as you say, it's better if someone comes there and do more and more, because he will get better at it, he will perform better. And yeah, mostly gamification or making them understanding that it could be beneficial for them. And things that, I don't know, when I annotate, sometimes I understand more sounds, you know, I understand more some categories, and it's also a way to search free sounds. So sometimes I find sounds that are interesting and that I wouldn't have found in other ways. So yeah, it's working on these things so that they could stay longer. And I mean, we are just at the start, but in a few months we will do some statistics and see these things, and they will be really interesting. If we just add a new feature, we just wait 1 month and we can really see if this feature improved, no? I don't know, in FreeSound, they're also doing this donation campaign. So it's just if you download a lot in FreeSound, then there is a banner or a pop-up on email that is sent to you and ask you maybe you want to donate to FreeSound. So we could do kind of the same thing. If you download a lot in FreeSound, you can maybe ask, would you contribute to this FreeSound dataset? I don't know. I think the thing is try to reach as many people as we can, and I guess I hope we will find some freaky guys that will just be crazy about it and spend time for it. Yep.
I just want to add that when you go for gamification or game elements, this is like the short-term interaction, right? So this will present the short-term interaction of, maybe Davinia knows this actually a bit more, no? But this might be not the only motivation, let's say, because with this, like how do you call this again? I forgot the name now, but that you do something and then you get rewarded for that. It's like just a short-term thing. It's not a long-term engagement of your application with somebody, right? This is more when you go for the motivation they have behind. If you find out what the users want or what the stakeholders want or what they need, right? And that you might give them this kind of need, then they were much more likely to participate or engage of long-term terms, let's say. Yeah, like, I don't know. You have to find it out for your application. But do you want to add something? No? Okay. Another question?
Aurelia was having one, but I'm not sure. If not, I have. Xavier very nicely arrived to the place where the video is, if you want to watch it.
COT stands for Communities of Teaching.
I guess there are shortcuts for all these things, but I never did duplicate the screen. I wanted to try today. But yeah, it is.
And is a project to improve teaching quality by making it easier for teachers to design learning activities for their students. Our approach is to use technology to enable teachers to collaborate with each other in designing learning activities and to help teachers to better share their finished learning designs with other teachers. Our goal is to support communities of teaching, communities that work together to improve the quality of education in their context.
So this is to support the ethical process, so to make the
Are you a teacher?
educators,
We need your
the teachers,
participation
but also
so that
the
we can learn
students
from you and design a system that meets the needs of teachers in designing, co-designing, and sharing learning designs. A system that collects and presents data in a manner that enables you to reflect about your teaching practice. Are you a student? We need your participation too. By joining our studies, you'll be helping your teacher, your future teachers, and other students just like you, as we'll be able to better understand what works well and what doesn't in the context of delivering effective learning activities. What type of data will we be collecting? We collect data generated from the usage of our system, such as log files, to learn how you interact with the system. There will be data from our observations of your work in class during interviews and discussion groups. There will also be data from the work you produce, lesson designs created, questionnaire and interview answers given, and assignments submitted to learn how the designs created online affect class activity outcomes. Why should you care about the data we collect? Because data you share carries with it some risk. In current society, where various online tools are offered in exchange for your data, it's important to understand both the risks of sharing your data and the benefits of supporting initiatives, such as this project that you are supporting. What are the risks of sharing your data? The primary risk is that the data you share is used by people and for purposes that you did not give permission for, which may result from a data breach, such as when data is stolen, or a data leak, such as when the holders of your data do not manage it well. In such situations, the unwanted sharing of your data could lead you to having your privacy invaded and receiving unsolicited marketing messages, being discriminated against and having your reputation damaged, having your identity stolen or exploited resulting in financial loss. The more sensitive the data you share, data such as personal, medical, and financial data, the greater the risks. So be aware of the data you are sharing and to whom, and make sure the benefits are worth it. In the COT project, we work hard to minimize the risks. Highly sensitive data that may lead to discrimination or direct financial loss will not be collected. Data from learners will be aggregated and anonymized. meaning that the data cannot be used to identify individual learners. Personal data will only be collected from consenting educators in the pilots, but none of this personal data will be shared with third parties or used for purposes outside of the COT project. COT project members all will have signed a strict confidentiality agreement related to the handling of personal data and the analysis of the results. Data will be securely stored and backed up by the university's IT services team. The data will be handled according to national law and the ethical guidelines of Pompeu Fabra University. So by not collecting highly sensitive data, by aggregating and anonymizing the learner data collected, and ensuring that the data is not shared with third parties, we reduce the risk to you from sharing your data. Remember, our goal is to provide teachers with a tool that will help them more easily design effective learning activities, and also a platform through which teachers can give support to and receive support from other teachers. Students and teachers alike will benefit from the innovative learning activities resulting from the COT project. If you choose to participate, you'll be asked to sign a consent form giving us permission to collect data. However, you will always have the choice to stop participating at any time and for any reason. In sum, you should only participate in the project if you are comfortable with the risks and happy with the potential benefits.
There are no more questions? No? Okay.
So who's doing now the
They don't know yet. Thank you. Yeah.
Hello, hi. To me, the whole meeting feels like a support group. Seeing that there's more people in the same trouble as I am. I'm collecting data for my own PhD project. And in my case, being online is more of a convenience thing than being a necessity, because we're not trying to reach out to a large community. We just want it to be easier for people to access that. But what we also learn is that it's a trade-off between commitment and convenience, because the more convenient you make it, the less likely the people will be very engaged in that activity. So you have to kind of compensate in other ways, making sure that people know the task that they have to perform well by, keeping contact with them, even if they are doing it on their own online. So it's challenging, and it's like Maria said, it takes a long time to build up a data set, and a pilot is absolutely essential, because you can never predict exactly what kind of challenges you're going to meet. We're talking in the tens, 20, 30 people. This level. Okay.